everyone, and welcome to today's video. It's so lovely to see you all back on our Yogic Gurukul channel today. In today's video, we have an amazing discussion coming up for you. We're going to be talking about sadhana, prayer, malas, and all the wonderful ways in which we can actually use tools to enhance our sadhana, prayer, and practice. So, with me today, I have my lovely friend Piya Jain, who is joining us for this discussion. She's the founder of Maha Mala, which is an absolutely wonderful company and organization that creates malas, gemstones, and jewelry that really helps us to enhance our spiritual practice. And once I started talking to Pia, we realized how many similarities we have, how many things we believe in, and I just felt like it would be a very useful conversation for us to have here. So, Pia, thank you so much for joining us, and I'll let you also say a few words about yourself.
Hi, so my name is Piya and I'm from Delhi. And I started Mahamala with a friend many years ago. And we are basically a spiritual jewelry company specializing in semi-precious stones and gem therapy. Also making malas, 108 bead malas, and some fine jewelry like birthstones and things like that. So I just basically started this company because of the love of gemstones, how they are so beautiful and how they resonate with each other, why they affect us, so it was so fascinating. And because I have a background of jewelry in my family, like I come from many jewelry jewelers so in India, and that's how I got into it, and I realized that I have a thing with gemstones, I'm good with them, like I understand them. And yes.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I have to add here, like when I was talking to Pia, she even told me like one of the conceptual pieces that they made, it took her 3 years to perfect it and really be happy with the product. So I just love how much attention to details she focuses on. And I find it really fascinating and her journey is super inspiring. I also think it's so interesting that, we in India, I think we tend to sometimes we tend to take on what our parents have built as legacy. And it's the same for me with yoga, and it's the same for Pia with jewelry and gemstones. And I think it's the best way we can add service to the things that we already know so well. So thanks, Pia, for sharing your story there. And we're going to jump right into our conversation now, which is talking about sadhana, prayer, and how that adds value to our lives. So I just want to start off by saying that our lives can sometimes get so unpredictable or a little bit not in our control at all times. And I feel like sadhana is that grounding point or that meeting place with ourselves where we can just feel like, okay, through my practice, things feel like no matter what's happening, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be okay. And it just builds our connection with the divine in such a beautiful way. So I feel that daily sadhana, that daily practice compounds over time, and it just makes you feel internally safe and protected. So that's kind of the way I think of sadhana. And Pia had some amazing ideas and thoughts on this as well. So, Pia, what does sadhana mean to you, and how do you think of it?
So, of course, sadhana is like your daily practice, your like something that belongs to you, it is what you do for yourself.
Mhm.
And I think, like you rightly said, it is something that grounds us, something that we can keep coming back to, no matter what is going on in our life.
Mhm.
Something that gives us hope, something that gives us courage, and all those good things. It is what comes from a sadhana, and how important it is, like in today's life where everything is just crazy, what we're going through, what we're seeing on like social media, like wherever, and there's just uh so how to like stay focused, grounded, that to me is personal sadhana.
Yes, yes, so beautifully said. And when you're like in your own journey with sadhana, have you found that, meditation has helped you? Is there a particular way that you enter your sadhana? Like, what has your process been like?
Yes, definitely. And mantra chant is a big, is
Yeah.
it's like a very big part of it, you
Mhm.
know. I do chant,
Yeah.
and it's what gives me that daily boost, you
Mhm.
know, boost. And it is important, like, for, like every morning, it's consistency again, you know, like every morning, like the first thing, it's like brushing my teeth,
Yeah.
daily sadhana, you know. And I'm very happy because I think as a child, that's all I ever really I really wanted it. You know, I've
Mm.
wanted things, but I also really wanted to have a personal
Yeah.
sadhana, is something that I have very hard to stay consistent, you know,
Mhm. Yes.
and sometimes it becomes very monotonous,
Yeah.
you know. Sometimes it becomes like a ritual, like you're doing a ritual, but like actually, that's also okay. I guess human beings, we go through all
Phases.
sorts of things, and that's also fine. So,
Yeah,
yes.
that's so true. And I think that, as you said, it becomes your like one consistent thing that you can rely on. And you always feel like, okay, so many variables may seem like I can't control them. But even if it's monotonous, even if it's like feeling like I'm doing the same thing again and again, you're still learning like incrementally new things about yourself that in those moments of magic on your mat. So I just, like you said, it's something that if you hold close to your heart, it can just do like wonders for you in the long run. So I love that. And you know, as you said, mantra chanting, I think that is uh, is so special even for me because I feel like the minute you start chanting a mantra, it takes away a lot of your worries and puts you in a new vibrational state almost. So, like, have you, you know, is there some a mantra that you personally love, and has there been any situation in your life where you were like, okay, this mantra is just saving the day for me now?
Actually, yes. So I practice Buddhism, you
Yes.
know. I chant,
Mhm.
and it's a Buddhist mantra that I chant. And I have, and you know, like it's been 15 years also.
Wow. Yeah.
Something that I hold very close to my heart, and you know, it's yeah, it's my daily practice, and it
Yes.
has been so long.
Hmm.
So, yeah, you know, like I see a lot of people like in my environment and who have held on to something, you know, like be it yoga,
Hmm.
be it like meditation.
Yes.
Uh, you know, it for them it's like yeah, second nature,
Correct.
and it's interesting because everyone has their own like schools of philosophy, you
Yes.
know, like we base it on.
Mm.
But in the end, you feel a very different connection, you know,
Correct.
with those people.
Yes.
Because it's something that I learned when I started, you know, working within the yoga community,
Hmm.
relationships I made, the people I met, you know, with Mahamala, you know, traveled so much. And there is that whole community which is devoted to
Hmm.
self,
Yes. Yeah.
whatever, like help or, you
Mhm.
know, respecting their own life, thereby also respecting others, helping others, you know, do something. So that exists, like,
Mm.
you know, completely different, like, world within the world that we.
Yeah. That's so well said, and it almost feels like a safe haven. Like, okay, these kinds of people exist, and their sadhana helps them to become more like that. And it feels like, you know, it almost like restores your faith in the world when you see people like that, or you see that their practice impacts them in that way. So it's very beautiful to see that.
I
Yeah.
think like an entire yoga community, you can say, is somebody who hold a different respect for life.
Yeah. Yes.
That doesn't mean like they're any better or like, you know, it's just a different way that they look at, you know, and they take care of so many things that there's less conflict, so to
Yes.
say.
Yes, yeah. And they drive that. They're like, okay, we want to live a harmonious life, so how can we make that happen? Yeah, yeah. Amazing. And I know and this is interesting because I remember when we were talking and you said that you'd also traveled a lot and been to a lot of yoga festivals, and that was part of a big part of the journey of Mahamala. And has there been, anything when you were on that journey that you noticed and saw that, because, in like, for example, we say that, okay, Bhakti Yoga, slightly more emotional people may move towards that, more intellectual people towards Gyan Yoga. So have you, like, in your experiences, seen different types of people gravitating towards different practices? And if so, like, what have some of your observations been in that process?
Definitely, like lots and lots of different practices, right? Somebody's into like crystal bowls, somebody's into the somebody's
Yeah.
into certain type of yoga, someone is doing some other kind of like
Yes.
lefty, like there's so much out there, like there's a lot, everyone, it kind of like comprises that holistic lifestyle, that holistic living,
Yes.
you are going for like yoga class. Yoga, like everybody does yoga now.
Yeah. Which is amazing. I think that's the best thing that has happened.
So we do yoga, and for years,
Mm.
years, people have been doing yoga, and even within the people who do yoga, some are like really on a different journey, some are really on a different journey.
Yes.
So you find that too, and that's also okay, because at least some form of, just doing yoga. Like I'll tell you, I'm currently not doing any yoga, but last year, this time, I was doing a lot of yoga, and I feel the difference.
Yes. You can literally tell your body's like, oh.
I really, really feel the difference. And then it's just been, we've had a very cold winter in Delhi,
Yeah.
and laziness and this, that, the other.
Yes.
So, but yes, I do feel the difference. So,
Mm.
something that you do,
Yeah.
even for the sake of doing it,
Yes.
has benefits.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
Correct.
Mhm.
Something that you really do, you're like enjoying it, or even for a moment, maybe one day you're like, no 2 days are the same. I've learned that. We all know it.
Yeah.
So today you're like really enthusiastic. Tomorrow you're like, ugh, I don't want to get out of bed.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Consistent yoga practice is,
Is the
you know,
key.
it is the key.
Yes.
Like something that you do with love for
Mm.
yourself is
Yeah.
good.
Yes. Yeah. No, and I think I'm really glad you said the thing about consistency, because sometimes we make it a thing about feelings more than like just, and discipline may sound like a harsh word, but in a very kind and very loving way, just being disciplined with our own practice, irrespective of, like, say, like, as you said, the mood swings or like the feelings, and just saying that actually I'll feel better after I do it. So why don't I just take that little risk and kind of make it happen? So yeah, that consistency matters.
It's something that you have to keep telling yourself again and again and again to to really stick to it. It's hard. But
Yeah.
when you have like something that's solid,
Mhm.
something you really, that you have found your awakening in, or
Mhm.
what is
Yeah.
this word, but then you will find a way to come back to it, even if sometimes,
Yes. Yeah.
seen people like that as well, who have that discipline,
Yes.
So I think it's all just your will to
Correct.
like seek something higher than you,
Yes.
You
Yes.
know that there's something outside, or there's something that's there that's better. And you strive for that. In that, quest for seeking, like you are able to, sustain.
Yes. Yes. That's actually, yeah, I like that you said the word quest, because that is actually what it is. And then that seeking makes you want to come back to say, like, okay, if I, in like 3 months or how much ever time I learned this, what were the next 6 months hold, and what was the next year going to hold for my practice? And then you just kind of keep building from there. So, yes, that's very true. Yeah. I think also what, from this point of consistency of practice and how we're talking about just maintaining a sadhana, would you say, like, how does, where does the prayer come into this picture? So I'll say a little bit about how I see it, and then we can come back. I think for me, meditation, some forms of meditation are definitely to just integrate with myself first and have, no duality, kind of have that cohesion within myself. And then there are some times when I feel like there's a channelization happening, or like a receiving something, or receiving messages, and not entirely in the form of prayer, but still some sort of a download. And then there is prayer in itself, which feels like a big telephonic conversation with the divine. And it just feels, and sometimes it could be maybe we're seeking something, sometimes it's just gratitude, it's just like a conversation. And everyone obviously has their own narratives running, but I find that it has a different flavor to it from meditation, for example. So in your mind, how do you, create maybe similarities and differences between these two, and how do you see it?
Um, well, when you began with like talking about, that non-dual, that moment of non-duality, that
Yeah.
is like the hardest thing for me. For me, it's really, really hard.
Hmm.
But what happens, so what I try to do is I try to prolong my time so that
Yeah.
instead of doing like half an hour, 45 minutes, maybe I'll do it for an hour, 2 hours, depending on the feeling.
Yes.
I prolong my time so that at least 10 minutes are good,
Yes. Hmm.
Like otherwise, if you are in a rush, which we usually are, it's hard. So yes, that a moment of non-duality is rare.
Yeah.
Like it's it's the moment that you're able to just be yourself,
Mhm.
who you really are.
Yeah.
And in that moment, uh, you pray,
Yeah.
like ask, I don't know, for whatever it is that
Yes.
it's that moment. And I've heard again so many experiences of different people who have been able to manifest with the power of prayer.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think, and to really believe,
Yeah.
because belief, it's like is also, we were going to talk about belief and like faith and
Yeah.
uh, it's like one leads the other,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So you have to have that moment of belief, that moment of that prayer
Yes.
that we are talking.
And you're right, and then it takes it to the next level on, because if you're going in a little skeptical, or I don't know, I'll kind of sort of maneuver, then as you're saying, it may not have that powerful an impact, or you may not feel that point of full communion or like non-duality. But as you're saying, if you have that level of faith, and from before I'm sure that I want to go in this direction, then it kind of transforms as a practice. So yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I also think that sometimes, and there are a few people, especially this does tend to happen in the yoga community, where sometimes we forget the role that prayer can play, and there's a certain element of uh, not intentionally, but sometimes we create a little bit ego around us, like, oh yeah, through my powers of manifestation, I can, really do anything. But there's also an element of divine grace, and there's also an element of what is our connection with the divine. So, how do you kind of fit those two pieces of the puzzle? Have you found that both are important and we need to focus on both? Or how has it been like in your experience?
Mm, yeah, I think it's actually a good, very complicated, but it very
Yeah.
yes, you need to have faith in yourself,
Mhm.
like self belief,
Yeah.
that now how you put it out there, like I think the belief of a higher power,
Yeah.
brings a little bit of humility,
Yeah.
right? I think that aspect of like being all that, uh, arrogance
Yeah.
thing,
Mm.
a prayer with like humility, like then of course this prayer of humility, it's somewhere, it's like a sense of surrender
Yeah.
that you do in front of a, a higher power, a universe, or whatever it may be, the grace of God. Um, I think that is, they come together. Like,
Yeah.
you
Hmm.
have to believe in something that's more than you.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Definitely, it exists. It has to like.
Yeah, I think that's very true because sometimes we can get a little overconfident and I'm just going to make it all happen, and then it's nice to be like, oh, there I can surrender more and just receive as
Yeah,
well as getting some action done.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and that kind of transforms us. Yeah.
yes, yeah. Sorry, you just froze for a second.
Oh, am I back? Yes, yes. So yeah, I think that helps us to kind of build our practice and go forward. And then segueing from there, I also want to delve into what are some of the ways in which we can really count on our practice being consistent. Because one is, as you said, will and discipline, and building that habit and consistency. But sometimes it's a struggle and people find it really really difficult to come back to their practice. So it's we were talking about like practical tools and like ways in which something can help guide us back to that practice, and that's a little bit kind of where the role of say malas come in, and they play, they really help us to just be grounded and be like, okay, I got this now. So how would you define the role of like malas in our spiritual practice? What do they do for us?
Okay, so to begin with, Amala is again the most important, aspect of prayer. In
Mm.
fact, one of the most ancient, like I was thinking about it, what an ancient concept. It's
Yeah.
not something that we've just created.
Mhm.
Uh, And as Indians, like, not only as Indians, there's so many different like religions, like all over the world,
Mhm.
in which a mala has been, like part of the origins of the
Yeah.
practice.
Yes.
Then you're like, okay, prayer and mala come together.
Mm.
Um, I think the key aspect is focus.
Mm. Yes. Yes.
And focus and yeah, like I need a mala in my practice. I'm
Mhm.
absolutely lost. I
Mhm.
don't I don't know if I like say this to someone like how they're really going to respond. But for me, a mala is very important. I
Right.
and I realize, of course, that's why the whole purpose of a mala is to bring you focus. So
Mm.
why I not use it in my practice?
Yes.
And it's important, and that's why of course Mahamala started within the yoga community,
Mm.
within for like people to do their mantra chanting, the importance of mantra chanting. It didn't quite become like that because a lot of people started to just use it as a yoga accessory,
Yes. Like this is cool.
like even selling it as a yoga accessory, and I
Yeah.
think that's fine. And I figured that is the need for the yoga community is, let's say, or people who use a mala, let's say, is the what it really brings to you as an object.
Yes.
Because it is an object. It becomes
Mm.
personal because you use it for something so personal, so
Yes.
you need something that you take care of,
Mhm.
something if you want to wear, because we see so many like babas on the street who like wear it. I mean, like gods and goddesses have been
Yes.
depicted. The rudraksh that comes from Shiva, he's constantly wearing
Yes.
like, so of course we will wear it, but then again, what's the benefit? If
Correct.
when jewelry, then what's the benefit that it
Mm.
has on your body and your being?
Mhm. Mhm.
And we started to focus on gem therapy, you
Mm.
know focus on um, why this mala is made, what it signifies, what are the gemstones, how they go together, and it's all a matter of belief. Um, I think gem therapy or like gemology um, is a very untapped science,
Yeah.
like geology, but then gemology, like, how it affects our being is not, it stays very Indian,
Mm.
like, because in astrology it's so widely used.
Yeah.
I actually don't know, like, if it's ever been used in other cultures, around
That's
the globe.
so, yeah.
But like, it is so gems do have value. They
Mm.
have value because, then going a little bit into the technicality of it is that uh, gems and crystals are they have their structure, right?
Yeah.
They have structure.
Hmm.
When the rays of the sun shine on that crystallized
Mm.
structure, that's when it starts to vibrate.
Hmm.
It's that particular crystalline structure, and that's why it affects our,
In a certain way. Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
There are a lot of people who've, written about gemology and gem therapy, the energy of the gems, some very interesting people who have really studied um, physically and also like metaphorically, like studied gem and how they feel, with the gem. And I thought that was also fascinating,
Mm.
how to put it together and like give it in a spiritual object that you may use.
Hmm.
Uh, and gems also, they absorb,
Yeah.
so they absorb your mantra vibrations. So they become like a very
Like a part of you.
yeah,
Yeah.
and a powerful tool just to have as like a protection amulet or
Yes.
whatever your faith or belief may want it to be.
Hmm. Yes. That's
Yes.
wow. So glad you explained it in that much depth because a lot of people, like, even when we spoke about it, I was like, oh my God, I did not know that it works like this. Because, and interestingly, as you also said, it is a little more common for us culturally, just because, and I know a lot of international, yoga teachers and students watch our channel. And whenever I interact with them, so many things that are obvious to us or that we see every day are not as common in their cultures. And I think for us, we've grown up seeing, as you said, babas with malas. We've seen in our house, our parents, based on astrology, decide, okay, we're going to wear this or not wear. So I think it's so ingrained in our culture that, it's like we don't even think about it intellectually anymore because it's habit oriented. But now knowing the basis and the philosophy behind it, it adds that much more value because we know the why behind why we're doing what we're doing. So yeah, I really didn't know that the structures vibrate that way because of the way sunlight comes through it, and also that it absorbs energies in certain ways. And I'm sure because it's like almost like an enhancer of whatever you choose to denote it with. If, as you're saying, if we have more belief and more focus on it, it will behave in that way. If we choose to have less belief, then I guess it won't be as powerful, right? Like it does depend on how we uh, treat it or respond to it also.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. Great. I also think, sometimes there's this confusion within the yoga communities that, as you said, it just becomes an accessory sometimes, which, yeah, it is fine. But how do we start seeing it more and more as a tool? Like, what are some of the practical ways in which it becomes a tool in sadhana?
Mm, the most practical I feel is like have an altar. Like I'm sure anybody who wants to do sadhana either has an altar,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah,
like
something of their own.
something of their own, just like, or a spot where they sit
Mm.
on the daily. It's just good to kind of keep it there, like keep it in a pouch. So our malas always come in a pouch,
Yes, we need to also talk about this because sorry, I'm going to interject here, but Henrik, who connected Pia and me and is a wonderful friend and student, has spoken so highly of your packaging that I feel like we need 5 minutes just on that. But yes.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, we wanted to, of course, not like be as sustainable as possible. So I'll tell you a little bit about Mahamala before I get into packaging. So Mahamala um, uh, is very like one of the principles of Mahamala is ahimsa,
Yeah.
So we really wanted to talk about ahimsa and like non-violence and uh, non-cruelty type of practices as much as possible.
Hmm.
Our company in our because a lot of it, I mean, gemstones are mined,
Yeah.
metal is mined. So we try to source it with the least amount of whatever possible.
Hmm.
Silver also recycle,
Yeah. Hmm.
all our silver, make all our things out of recycled silver. So all our tassels are made with a himsa silk, which is basically farmed without killing the silkworm.
Yeah.
And everybody, I think, around the world has their own way of, doing this farming, where it is the most sustainable way of farming silk.
Yeah.
Uh, Everything we wanted to keep natural.
Hmm.
So as much as possible. So we actually really wanted to support artisans, Indian art,
Yeah.
uh, and we used to, for the longest time when we started this company, we used to, get a specific fabric from Gujarat. Uh,
Hmm.
from an NGO which was based on like Gandhian principles
Oh,
of khadi.
wow.
So, the fabric from there all naturally dyed, natural prints and things like that. And so, for the longest time, we were using that, and now we're using something more from a different part,
Yeah.
which is again very traditional Indian.
Hmm.
These are the things. So, this we want. So, I don't have any of my packaging to show you right.
We'll
Um,
link it in the description so everybody can go check it out.
but we have, it's really nice. So we made these pouches,
Hmm.
uh, and we took the help of an NGO, which is based in Delhi,
Yeah.
uh, who actually give vocational training to women who have been thrown into sex trafficking.
Oh.
We've been working with this NGO for a really long time, and so they help these particular women. So they would make our packaging. So it was like a full supply chain of things happening.
Wow.
Uh, so, we wanted to have something that's supporting someone as well as,
Mhm.
non-violent, and somebody who believes in non-violence, somebody who's helping. So till today, like this organization is making our pouches
Hmm.
and that and the envelope shape. So they do all our packaging,
Mhm.
and we
Yeah.
try to use as natural fabrics as possible, or we upcycle. So all
Mhm.
our definitely like upcycle.
Wow. And that was an intentional decision, right? Like you were really intentional about the values aligning.
So it's part of the product.
Yeah.
It's not just packaging.
Yeah. Yeah.
Part of the product, like it's the experience. That's the story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's so beautiful because a lot of times people don't think so deeply about how the product, the whole experience. But again, like I said at the beginning, I just love how much like attention to detail you have and you really think things through, which is shows, I think.
Yes.
Mhm. Mhm.
This is
Yeah.
some, that that is important, to
Mm.
the philosophy of the company.
Yes.
And, we've had a lot of like back and forths, like currently with plastic, I have a big, so for the longest time, we were using no plastic.
Yeah.
And,
Hmm.
now we have, because of certain rules and restrictions in exports,
Yeah.
plastic.
Mm.
And with gemstones, it's just easier to use plastic because
Yeah.
you need everything to be see-through.
Yes.
So, so a lot of those things that we really had to,
Mhm.
fight with. But yes, trying to make it as sustainable as possible,
Mhm.
uh, and buying everything within India,
Yeah.
not even though there's so much abroad, like, especially with China and stuff like that, but really trying to buy, keeping everything as authentic.
Yeah.
Um, we've never wanted to mass produce. We've never wanted to become that mala company that will be like, selling at Top Shop or like here and there. But
Yes.
uh, we just supply good quality gemstones with a story like
Mm.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's beautiful because it keeps it very clear because you can almost customize, personalize, make it like really meaningful to the person that has it. And I think again, bringing in Henrik, he one of the reasons he loves Mahamala products is because of how personal like it feels like it's a story of his own, and I think that's what makes it worth remembering because it's that way. And I think as we were saying that the malas that come in are more than just jewelry and can be used as more than just jewelry, and you kind of given some direction with the altar and then how all are. And also I want to point out when you said ahimsa, for all yoga teachers watching this, we know that that's our first yama, right? So it really does coincide. So coming back to the practical element and how we use this, so say for example I've brought in a mala, and now initially, I think it's just a jewelry piece, but now I want to get more practical. So I can keep it on my altar. And then would you say, like, the counting of the beads and the whole process of chanting with it, how would you do it in a practical way if we had to explain?
In using
Mhm.
the 108 bead japa
Mhm.
mala, it has 108 beads because 108 is auspicious in many different ways. I'm sure more than I do, about significance of 108. That's why it's just auspicious.
Yes.
But once you're chanting, you can do even like it's an auspicious number,
Yeah.
So, 54, 27. You can
Correct.
also
Denomination.
you can do 27 chants, you can do 54 chants, or you do 108 chants. It really
Yeah.
depends the amount of time you have, where you are,
Everything, taking everything into account.
out, depending on all that is how much you chant.
Yeah.
So,
True. And I think as you're saying it just helps when the mala itself, for example, is 108 beads, because then it's very like, yeah, I get it. I'm with the bead and I'm chanting. Because sometimes, as they say, with the chant also, you can get a little, in a good way, you can get a little lost in your chant and kind of have a moment of I don't really know how many I finished numerically, but I'm there somewhere. So it for me as well, whenever I've used a mala, I think keeps me, even though I am deeply with the mantra, it keeps me present so that I don't slip away into complete an abyss entirely. So that way, I think it's quite helpful. Yeah, yeah, nice, awesome. And yes, as she said, 108 has a lot of significance. We even do 108 rounds of Surya Namaskar. So just the number and the way it's structured helps us to formulate an auspicious bond within our bodies. And then it also leads to 8 plus 1 leading to 9, which is considered, any denominations of 3 are considered pretty auspicious and holy. And it's also interesting because that's across so many cultures. We have the Holy Trinity. We have, even here, we have like, we have Lord Shiva, Vishnu, and Lord Brahma. So we always see this Trinity coming about in many places, and 108 is just a higher level of that same Trinity energy. So I'm glad we could touch on that concept a little bit as well. I think going from yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to add, how to chant. Sorry, because you asked me about a very practical way. I
Yes.
think just chanting a mantra into every bead, you know,
Hmm.
just and just focus and like send your energy, to that bead or or focus on, like, I think the stone will bring focus in, or like the mala will bring focus in your heart.
Yes.
Or like, I don't know how to explain it really.
Yes.
It's just like, it's a practice. You just kind of have to sit there and just chant one mantra into every bead.
Mm.
Um, Focus on the mantra, focus on your life, focus on who you really are. Like,
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes even what I've done, because as you said, you chant one mantra into each beat. And sometimes if something's really troubling you in that moment, it's also like a where you say, may the solution kind of come to me with each mantra. And it's like sometimes the problem really vanishes, like as you're chanting. And either the
how you chant, I want to know.
Yeah, I think for me it is always that. So sometimes when we would chant, like we do a lot of the Yoga Sutra chanting or some of the texts, and we would chant initially without a tool, but then over time, even for me, like I do have the Rudraksh Mala and it is on my altar, and I kind of use that to chant consistently and to chant the right way. So one is just perfecting your pronunciation, getting the right tonality and those kind of things. And then the second element is again that emotional connection. So for me, it's always like if I have to express gratitude, then my emotion, the intensity of the emotion kind of increases with each chant of the mantra and of more purity, more joy. And then sometimes it's more like I was saying a solution seeking place where I just need help, maybe. And I'm just like, just either give me the strength to go through this or help me find a solution to what can I do to improve this. And then somehow, I don't know, it's just some downloads kind of come in. And with each time I'm chanting it, it feels a little easier, feels a little lighter. And the heaviness starts to go away. So those are the 2, 3 ways in which I usually chant. And I found that if I don't do it that way, or if I don't keep myself grounded, sometimes it can go into compounding or overthinking in the an opposite direction. But that consistency that a physical tool gives me prevents my mind from scattering, and it keeps it like, no, 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 we're going down this path. So that helps a lot, I would say. Yeah, yeah, yes.
I think that is the purposeness.
Yes, yes. Just bringing us back on track with every chance. So yes. I also wanted to touch on, you said a little bit about, gemstones and the kind of impact that they have. And we were talking a little bit about like gem therapy. So if you could touch on like what are some of the healing powers, and if you've seen some personal cases and examples where it's actually been therapeutic for people in their lives. And if you could share that with us.
Yes.
Mhm.
Times.
Mhm.
I remember once a friend was looking to like conceive, and I gave Mala, and literally, and I didn't even, actually, she didn't tell me that she's even trying, or I didn't even think about it. But for me, I just thought it's like the natural progression of things. She was married a few years, and I was like, okay, she could be. So I gave her that mala, and after 2 months or a month or 2 months, she told me she's pregnant.
Oh, wow.
It just be my thing. But yes, many times people have, bought. So we have a chakra range,
Yeah.
and each and every mala is designed for a certain chakra. So a lot of the people have, worn those in order to like go be deal with whatever they are going through, and many have come back to me and told me how much they have loved and how much it's helped gem wise,
Yeah.
but also a lot of people really enjoy doing mantra chanting with,
Mm.
I think, with amalas, because they like the quality, and they like the product, and what it's meant to them.
Mhm.
So it has been both ways really helpful um, to people.
Yeah.
Many, like, I think I continue to do this still because I feel like it creates value. It is,
Yeah.
because not only with big, not even just with the chakra range, but even if like someone's wearing something very small and tiny, they're like, oh my God, I think I really got protected.
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
they like, or I have clients, who keep coming back. They're just like, they constantly have to keep wearing it. So many times malas break, bracelets break,
Yeah.
but they keep coming back and they're like, oh, I want it fixed. So because they hold something, close,
Wow. Mhm.
yes,
Mm.
about the product or that particular thing.
Yes, yes. I think that's wonderful that you share that with us, because sometimes we don't get to see like real life examples, and sometimes again with Indians, we, because it's so part of our culture, sometimes we rebel. We're like, I don't want to wear this, or I don't know how is that going to help me? And then sometimes you go into the science of it and you're like, oh my God, like our ancestral lineage was too smart, like they knew so many things.
Yeah, you're right. I've been selling malas for such a long time, but I have to say it's only very recently did I realize I'm just like, wow, like no wonder it's so ancient.
Yes, because it works.
One thing that I can't live without, that I
Yes.
have to do my daily practice with, like wonder they've been using it time because it actually works.
Works. Yeah, yeah. And as you're saying, it's big, that's why it's such a science in itself, like knowing what impact does which gem have. And then as it's like you said, it's like a tool. Like the more I know, the more I can use it to my advantage in the long run. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yes. And it's also interesting because as we were discussing, a lot of interest has sparked internationally. And, in a good way, I guess it's kind of brought that interest back to India as well. And now we're having this amazing collaboration, East and West, where we're seeking these answers and trying to understand these things more. And I think in the long run, it's great for all of us because everyone's knowledge expands and we all just get better with time. So I think that's a good thing. I think taking from that, I would say that in what ways do you think that how can people like what would be some of your tips for maintaining that consistency and practice? And I'll share a few as well. But for someone say who's maybe struggling to be consistent or looking for a couple of tools, what are those like top three pieces of advice that you would share with them?
I think community.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, to have a community really helps.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause in isolation, you will always stop,
Mm.
It's hard to, go through something long term unless unless you have, because there will be times when things will get really difficult or you will get really lazy. Life is such. In
Yeah.
fact, there's this author whom I really, really love. I've been, and he was saying something about sadhana. This is Robert Swoboda, and in like a Instagram clip I heard it. He said that when you are doing your sadhana, then you are basically exhausting karma.
Yeah.
More sadhana you do, the more karma you're going to exhaust. That means you're going to bring stuff up.
Yeah.
You So he's like, so it really depends on how much one can continue to do,
Yes.
and to the extent one can go.
Mm. And how deep they're willing to make, yeah, that journey.
Make the journey, because we are going to bring up things in our life that we're just going to be like, oh my God.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Wait, that's the whole point.
Mhm.
So you need a sangha.
Yes.
You need-
Yes, yes, you're right. And even, we call it like accountability buddy sometimes in like workouts or yoga class formats. And in, our Indian tradition, we call it a sangha, like Pia is saying, where it's important because like-minded people will keep that unit together and we'll be able to accomplish much more in a more robust way if we have that support around us. Otherwise, as you were saying, it's easy to fall off track or just maybe give up also halfway because you're like, I don't know, I can't see any impact, or I don't have any meaningful thing coming out of this. But it Sangha makes it joyful. It's like, yeah, I also get to interact with my favorite people and then, do this thing together. And there's always somebody to check in on you, which feels amazing. So
Yeah, that yoga community is a community,
yeah,
right? I no matter where you go, like there will be like yoga studios where you come back, you have like a group of friends, and you have discussions, and there's all that exists.
yes,
Then yoga retreats
yeah,
and there's a lot, and it's all fun.
yes, yes, exactly. And it makes it very like, okay, I'm not the only one. Like, there's more people experiencing this. I feel relatable. I feel like, and it creates that little bubble or cocoon of this moment that you have, and then kind of lasts for a very long time, that feeling, that experience. So,
Yes.
yes, yes. I will also say that, as you're saying, a Sangha is important. I think also just being very clear on like, what do you like, what are you trying to go to, that intentionality that we were talking about, because sometimes and they say this in the yoga sutras as well, if you lose sight of like, what's my aspiration, sort of where do I want to go, and it doesn't have to be a fixed goal, it can just be I want to be 1% better every day, okay, but if you lose sight of that larger picture, then it can get easy to feel lazy and feel like, why am I even doing this, kind of a thing. But if I have a larger aspiration in mind, less likely that I'll fall off track. So I find that sometimes that vision, that dream, that aspiration keeps you going. It's like fuel almost sometimes. So yeah, that also works, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like still you need a certain, I think a certain philosophy to follow in your life.
Yeah.
Is,
Hmm.
it's just a direction. It's just like a personal thing. Like, we all go to school to learn different things. We all study something in order to have the knowledge of it.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
important to keep that seeking mind alive and that study of something that helps, or being being attached to a certain school of thought, so
Yes.
to say.
Yes. Yes.
Consistency in that, because in my life I have seen so many different organizations, or like, and all sorts, some are not even like, so some are not, some don't even have a mention of a god, for example.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's schools of thought, and of course, because we are learners of you yoga, and me, like I have my Buddhism, so like I have a certain data, so or like
A
bank of information.
reference. Yeah. Hmm.
So and like
Yeah.
there's so many teachers, there's so many different schools in yoga
Mhm.
itself.
Yeah. Multiple. Yes.
There are different mantras, there are different things. So depending on what you think.
Yeah.
I know I've also seen people go from one philosophy to another because they were studying this and then this happened and then
Yes.
this, so that also exists. So you never know how you go from one place to another.
Yes, yes. Actually, this is so important you brought this up because, um, yeah, sometimes in the beginning we might be exploring the spectrum, like seeing like, okay, which philosophy speaks the most to me, which one do I align with the most. But then, as you're saying, over time you build that consistency, then even within that chosen philosophy, and it always helps to have knowledge of as many as possible. Then in your personal practice, perhaps either combining a few or building your own practice that means something to you, because I also guess if you are exploring the spectrum for too long, sometimes it may sometimes prevent you from building a consistent habit. So I think that exploration and then slight elimination and focus definitely helps in the long run as well.
Yeah. Yes, I think that, and it must be very important for a teacher, to know that, because yes, there can be like so much that, you
Yeah.
know, Something really we were.
Yes.
And you know whether it is, it's just again like your quest to know more. You read, like, I think I've been reading about like spiritual books since I was in like first year of college,
Oh,
like
wow. Long. Hmm.
19, 18, 19 years old. So since then, like I have been interested in it.
Yes.
So this age, I feel like I I'm very grateful that like I found what I needed.
Yes.
We
Yes.
continue on this path.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And as you're saying it, it becomes your thing then after a point. It's like, okay, this I've built a connection with this thing, and now this is my thing, and I get to like spend time with it and make it special. So yes.
I'm very grateful, to have the support of those around me, you to in order for me to continue.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Because, like I've always had like nobody's ever really questioned that why do you do this, or like even
Yeah.
even if they have, they've been supported.
Yeah. Yeah. And that conducive environment matters. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
if
Mhm.
your family members think that you're an idiot for doing what you're doing,
We
good
think you're crazy.
tree hugger or this or that, but like I mean something, it's something that is so not non-conventional. The fact that I want to sell a mala because it increases or makes someone's spiritual life better, then yes, that is the path that I chose,
Yes.
and
Yes.
um,
Yes.
spiritual practice, and
Yeah.
that has to be a part
Yes.
of life.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. I'm so glad that you had that conducive environment, right? Because it's like if there's good work happening, may
Hmm.
there be the right tools and the right, as they say, fertile soil to let that sprout. So I'm glad that it kind of fit into the picture.
Yes.
Yeah. And I would say same for me because it's like growing up at a yoga institution from like such a young age, it's like you're just born into it. You're like, oh, this is fantastic. What a life. So I feel like, having that gratitude really helps because again, it reminds you that you're not just living in isolation somewhere. There's a whole support chain and support network that has taken you there. And then we can carry it forward and pay it forward, as they say, because of so much gratitude within us. So yes,
Yes.
yes, awesome, perfect. I know that we're almost nearing the end of our time, but I would want to sort of end with, anything, any parting thoughts that you would like, because most of our audiences that viewers is like a lot of yoga teachers, meditation teachers, just new sadhakas on the path of yoga, and some of them this is really all just very new. So any words of encouragement, anything you would like to share with them as parting notes?
Yeah, I do. Not words of encouragement as such, but I really want to talk about like, not somewhere just believing
Mm-hmm.
in a personal practice.
Yeah.
It like
Mm.
Rita and here and me, like we are proofs that it
Yeah.
works.
Yes.
Not to be fearful or worry about what others will think, or um, it exists. That personal practice has benefits.
Yes.
It so many benefits. Like it changes like lives.
Mm.
uh, Please find, like what is your own personal practice. Give it that time and
Yes.
that dedication, uh, focus,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to
Sharpen it. Yeah.
open up your life to so much,
Hmm.
everything that you wanted, like, it'll all just make sense.
Yes.
So I think that the importance of having a personal practice is what I really wanted to bring out with,
Mm. Yes.
this decision.
Yes. Yes. And I think I fully agree because it's just a meeting point for yourself, and then magic happens when you let that happen. So it's just like, why not? And as you're saying, it's important to carve out that time. Like, yes, we all lead very busy lives, there's lots happening, but 10 minutes, 15, start small, but like, keep increasing it as you keep going.
3 minutes.
Yes,
But like start small, but
yes.
more it will make sense. You will see that, there will come a time where you want to do more and you don't have the time.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And then you'll have to just navigate that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, it was so, so wonderful to have you on our channel today and have this conversation. I feel like a lot of people will learn something new, like I have too. And I think that,
Yeah, it's been great to know that you two have like such a deep connection with your practice, and that's why it's been so great to speak to you about all of this.
thank you. That's so sweet. Yeah. And I think, for everyone watching, I think we've also enjoyed the process, like just thinking about, okay, what do we want to share with the world that has been our experience and how can we like add value in a positive way? So even just the process of going through that has been really awesome, I would say, for both of us. And we are hoping that this conversation leaves you also with some food for thought and kind of helps you to navigate your sadhana and your practice moving forward. So once again, I will share all of Piya's information in our description to this video. So please do go check it out, support her work. As I said, she pays real attention to details. So if you're looking for an excellent piece of work, I would highly recommend. And also, I mean, Piya and me are yet to meet in person. So I would say that's our next goal, to have an in-person podcast just like this one. Awesome. Great. Thank you so much, Pia, once again, and everybody else for tuning in. We will see you in our next video and keep practicing until then.
Thank you. Bye.